Well, hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Blur and Grain podcast launch episode. I'm so excited, and I'm gonna literally just get right into it. But I'm so excited to launch this podcast. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I actually have it in my notes app from 2019 as like a goal of mine that I wanted to launch in 2020, and here we are, literally 5 years later, and I finally got around to it. This podcast is just a personal project that I wanted to embark on. It's a time where I just want to talk and share about the things that I am passionate about in the creative world, in the marketing world, with content, digital, like all of those things that I could talk about for hours. Well, here is my little space to be able to talk about it for hours. I'm really excited to just start this journey, and without further ado, let's just literally dive in. First of all, my solo episodes are going to be kind of fun and spontaneous and just whatever happens type of vibe. Every other episode I do plan to have a guest as much as I can keep up with that, let's be honest. And for this season, we are going to have a lot of fun guests, from photographers and people that work in marketing agencies to my own husband, and being able to share with him about our journey. He's a talented filmmaker, a producer, all of the great things, and we're going to be able to sit down and talk about that. So there's a lot that is coming. Every single season of my podcast is going to have 10 episodes. So right now we're in season 1, episode 1, and I have 9 more episodes coming. They will be releasing weekly, so by the time that you are seeing and listening to this, there will be an episode coming out next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, for 10 weeks. And then I will be doing like a 4-week pause in between seasons, and then pick it right back up on season 2. So I'm really excited to kind of follow that little format that I have created. When it comes to the name Blur and Grain, I am gonna deep dive into that with one of my close friends that helped me come up with that name, and they will be a special guest later down in the season, and we're gonna get into it. But basically, I honestly feel like a little bit of blur and a little bit of grain, there's nothing that does not fix when it comes to content, photos and videos. And I'm literally like, blur and grain is me, blur and grain is who I am, literally. So why not just title my podcast Blur and Grain? Because I feel like that is, like I said, me, the essence of me in the way that I see things and in my eye, in some sort of way. If that makes sense to you and if that resonates with you, you're a real one, and you know. And if that doesn't, then hopefully through this podcast you're going to be able to understand what that actually means and what that means to me. But that is kind of a little bit behind the scenes of the name. Now, every single episode I hope to have this segment that I made up in my head. Let's talk about it. Let's do a little deep dive here. I love some tea. Okay, I love the tea, but not in like the gossipy way. I'm not saying I love tea and I'm like, that means I love to sit around and gossip or anything like that. I'm saying I love tea as far as like, I love behind the scenes. For me, tea equals BTS. Like, being able to see the behind the scenes of stuff or hear the behind the scenes of stuff, I'm like, whoa, that's some tea. Like, that's so interesting. So every single episode, I'm gonna have a segment called Tea Time, which is where I share some extra behind the scenes of whatever it is that I'm talking about or that I'm sharing in that episode. And when I have a guest on, I'm gonna ask them some even more in-depth or interesting questions, some questions that feel like tea to us, to me, to you, to anybody that is listening. Okay, so that's a little bit about the name, the way I'm going to structure the episodes, the segments that I'm going to be having. Now let's talk about the topics that I'm going to be hitting. So this podcast is all about the creative world, the creative and the marketing world, the things that I am passionate about, and like I said earlier, that I could talk about for hours. Myself, I'm a photographer, I'm a business owner, I work in the marketing department of a church. I am very, very passionate about everything that I do, and what better way to be able to just talk about those things than to just sit here and press record and not really think about it. One of the mottos that I'm living by this year, and with this podcast and with literally all the projects that I have currently on my plate, my personal projects, let me clarify that, is done is better than perfect. I just don't even want to overthink. I'm going to tell you guys something funny, and that is the fact that I don't think I have ever listened to a full podcast episode ever in my life. I don't know how people do it. I don't know. I try to literally watch something before I started filming this very first episode, because I'm like, how do people start and end these things? First, that's a question that I had. And second, I was listening to I was trying to find podcasts, and I was like, do people have intros and outros? How do people do it? So like I said, my motto is done is better than perfect. I actually am not a podcast connoisseur by any means. I'm really just sitting here in my couch in my living room, pressing record and starting to talk about these things. No, I don't have an intro and an outro, and maybe I won't for the entire first season, but we'll see how we develop and we grow, and how as we get our reps in, everything becomes better. So that's literally me in a nutshell, and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how I am doing it. And because this episode is all about introductions and giving as much context as possible as to what this whole project is going to entail, I thought that I would start by just sharing my story, telling you guys how I started in my career and the things that I'm doing, and just being able to kind of take like a small little deep dive into that. So, really, this all started approximately like 9 years ago. I was 20 years old. It was August of 2016, and I married my best friend in the absolute entire world. And we literally had a moment. So we got married in August 2016, and we literally had a moment after like 3 months into getting married. We both didn't have jobs anymore. He went through a situation in the job that he had. I went through a situation in the job that I had. And we found ourselves at that crossroads of like, okay, what we thought that we were meant to be doing was just not working out. We were going to school and we were working like office jobs and in management and different stuff like that. So I just sat my husband down and I was like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what are we actually going to do? Because we decided to get married and we didn't really have a plan. I mean, when you're engaged at 19 years old, like, you're not thinking so deeply, right? And our parents, and we had like people in our lives that were like, hey, what are y'all gonna do? And we were like, well, we have full-time jobs and we can like pay rent, pay our car note. We can like, we're pretty independent people, so we're just gonna figure it out. But we didn't have a plan for like, oh, I'm gonna finish school and then I'm gonna do an internship and then I'm gonna try to do this. Like, I feel like a lot of people have standard plans like that, but we didn't, because we knew that we had lots of different passions and things that we wanted to tap into, and it didn't feel like the traditional route that most people go on was like right for us. It was really working for us. So I just set my husband down and I was like, hey, what are we gonna do? Because the good thing right now in the season that we're in is that we don't have kids and that we're just fending for ourselves. So if we are going to go through a tough season, we can. And we need to start all over and reinvent ourselves, we absolutely can. And so we did. So I literally was like, hey, what do you want to do? And he was like, I've always wanted to make films. And I was like, really? Like, that was the first time that I'd ever heard from him about that. And I was like, okay, well then let's do it. Now for me, like, I grew up with a camera in my home. Like, my dad was creative. Like, my dad is a pastor, and the church that my parents have pastored has always been a small church, which means it's a DIY type of world. So I grew up in a world where my dad was like filming his announcement videos, recording things, sermons, doing his own slides, designing. Like, my dad was doing all of those things, so it was just normal to have a camera around. So I remember being little and picking up the camera, doing photo shoots with my friends, with my cousins, editing on like different websites that I found online, and being all about the content life since I was literally 10 and 11 years old. And when you didn't have Instagram or anything like that, but I was like, I love content. This is my passion. So I always wanted to do that. Now, keep in mind, it is 2016, and the term content creator or the word content is not relevant. Okay, it's 2016, and this is when content still refers to like copywriting. So photo and video is not like so big as it is now. Careers in digital marketing are not that relevant. I mean, they still are, right? Because we've been growing like since the 2010, like we continue to evolve in the world of digital media. But in this moment, I was 19, 20 years old, and that TikTok didn't exist, Instagram Reels didn't exist. Like, all of these different things that we have now were not a thing. Influencers, like, that wasn't really a word that you ever said. Like, so I didn't think that I could have a career in anything creative because I didn't find anything in the local, colleges that I had. There were marketing degrees, but they were very business oriented and it didn't feel creative. And then there was one university around that offered photography program, but it didn't seem like enticing, like, at all to me. but I knew that it's something that I always wanted to do. Another thing that I knew that I always wanted to do was start a business and be an entrepreneur. Like I always said, I'm like, I'm going to work for myself. Like that is what I want to do. And I tried to start many different types of businesses in the food world, selling cupcakes and juices and chocolate covered strawberries. And if you know, you know, if I'm sure some of my family is listening and watching and they know of all the different things and projects that I've started, but nothing ever really clicked or worked out for me. So when my husband was like, I want to be a filmmaker, I was like, absolutely, let's start the business tomorrow. Like I love photo, I love content, I love creative, and I've always wanted to be a business owner. So it was really a no-brainer. So I went behind my husband's back. I went to Best Buy, I got a credit card, and I literally asked the Best Buy salesperson, like, what's a good camera that's less than $3,000 that I can buy, that I can do like photo and video in. And so we got started and we bought a Canon 80D, or I bought a Canon 80D. I got home that night and I showed it to my husband. I was like, hey, I bought you a camera. Let's get started and let's start to see some like return on this investment ASAP. And that's literally how we started. It wasn't even that complicated. It was all about just doing. And that's, I guess, a piece of advice or nugget that I want to give you. Don't sit around and just wait for the perfect time to come for you to just get started, because that perfect time is never going to come. Even me right now, today, like filming this and doing this podcast, I'm like, there were so many different things that in my mind are not perfect to how I would have wanted to launch, or how I ideally would have wanted it to look or sound or whatever it is. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to not think about it. Every time that I don't fully like let the overthinking win and just start doing is when I start to see growth and when I start to see things happening. So that's literally what we did. Literally, my husband's like, I want to make films. I'm like, okay, here, let me go buy you a camera. Came back, hey, let's get started. And within a week or two, we started trying to see if anybody that we knew had friends or anybody that was getting married, or if I could start doing like photo shoots for free. And we literally just got started asking around and trying to wake up every day and finding something that we could start doing. So at the time, I guess, fun fact behind the scenes, my husband started doing Uber. He would do Uber, and I did Uber Eats as well for a season. And while we were like trying to get gigs, and so we did our first wedding, and it was completely free, and we did our first edit, and my husband started getting on YouTube, asking so many questions, learning from failing, learning from mistakes. Like I remember the very first wedding, he bought, it wasn't like a traditional gimbal, it was some sort of like stabilizer of sorts, and he could not get it to work. Like it kept vibrating the whole time, he couldn't balance it, and so he went handheld. And then some of the shots where he was trying to be on that gimbal were like so shaky, and like, but that's how he learned. From that massive failure, he learned why it didn't work out, why it wasn't compatible, etc., etc., etc. And then we started adjusting. The next wedding, we had something else. The next wedding, we also were like, wait, we actually have to take a tripod, because the tripod's going to help during these special moments in the wedding, etc., etc., etc. And we literally just started failing and learning and growing, and failing and learning and growing, and getting our reps in and just starting. So that's kind of how we did it. In that first wedding, I guess this is not to be like, not even exclusive to my tea time segment for today, but that first wedding, sorry, the first couple weddings were free, but the first paid wedding was literally $600, and we were doing photo and video, and I edited these freaking photos on my iPad on like the Visco Cam app. What the heck? I know, jump scare, but I did that, and the client actually loved the photos, and I don't even know how or why that happened, because I had my camera settings all messed up. It was my first time really trying to manually shoot. Before that, I had only shot on auto, and I shot my first wedding, first JPEG, obviously. Like I did not know the world of like shooting raw at all, and everything to my taste was horrific, but I learned from it, and we started growing. And I think within 6 months or a year, we started working on our website. We started working on a brand name. We started getting more clients. I will say for the very first, I would say year or two, we said yes to every single gig that came our way. Like I have shot pretty much everything that you could possibly think of. Like I have shot births, literal births. Like I have been in hospital rooms shooting a baby coming out of a female. Okay. That sounds so brutal to say it like that, but I was trying to find other ways to not make it sound like the way that I was thinking in my head based on what I lived. But I've done that, and then I've shot like quinceañeras and corporate gigs and conferences, and I've we've had travel agent clients, and we're shooting in Disney or in Jamaica, and then we're like at a medical spa. Like, we were shooting everything that came our way. We were saying yes to everything to kind of get acclimated with the industry. And so we did that. And so that's another little piece of advice or nugget. Anybody wanting to get started with photo video content or anything, just start saying yes, see what you like, what you don't like, fail, and it's okay. Try again, learn from the mistakes, and keep going. Eventually, you're going to find the things that you love and that you're passionate about, and then you're going to be able to kind of grow and learn and go from there. So that's kind of what we did. And then we had our business for 5 years, and then around 2020 my husband started working at the church that we both currently work at here in Houston, Texas, and he loved it. I mean, we were very, very, very scared to go from for him to go from full-time like entrepreneur freelancer to working like 9 to 5, but it ended up working out perfectly because he feels very passionate about his work and kind of just the organization that we work for and the things that we believe in. And so he fell in love with it, and a year later, so he started there in 2020, and then I started working there as well in 2021, and I started working as a creative project manager for the youth and young adult ministry of the church, really thinking that this is honest to God my mindset as I got this job. I was like, okay, well, I still have my business and I'm so passionate about like photo and video, and then I'm gonna get like kind of like an office job. It was like, it's hybrid, and so I literally was like, my full-time job is basically my side gig, because I was like, I wasn't so busy at the time. So I was like, okay, this is fine. Like, this is something that I can take on, not knowing that God had other plans for me and that I would grow so much and so fast. And so I started as a creative project manager, like I said, for youth and young adults, and then I got promoted in that same ministry and in that same team to the creative content manager. So now I was in just a project, I left the project manager role behind and I started managing the team. And then I think I did that for a year and a half, and then I got promoted again and I moved over to the marketing department. So I was no longer in the youth and young adult space, but I was in the full marketing department of the church, and this was just 7 months ago actually. And I got promoted to be a senior creative and strategy manager, really tapping into like leading the creative team for the church and on the marketing side, and then also on the marketing side, just like digital strategy, campaign planning, execution, all of that. So it's really been a learning season for me, and every time I move around, I fall more in love with it and find more passion in the things that I really enjoy to do. So this has really been a season where I've been able to mix creative and marketing and seeing how they both work together and how they connect, and how when both of those things are strong, we can really be successful in our messaging and in our communication. So the way that I view it is like, you can have something that looks really, really good, but if it's not being distributed well and strategically, you're gonna kind of have a miss, in the same way that you could be distributing everything as strategically as you possibly can through many different marketing channels, but if your target audience doesn't resonate with the way that it looks and that it sounds and that it feels, you're probably gonna have a miss there too. So I really feel passionate about making those both things great, bridging the gap there, and making sure that campaigns and the things that we do kind of mix both of them very well, and in a way that works for our target audience and the things that we are hoping to accomplish, in a way that we can achieve the goals and move forward. So this has been that type of season for me, and so this podcast really is about that, creative and marketing, how to work in that space and tap into different things. And so for this specific episode, I just wanted you guys to hear my background and kind of where I come from, how long I've been doing this, how I got here, how I got into the marketing space, even though I was, owning a business, and what I still do. I mean, I still do photo and video. I still take weddings, and then I have my full-time job in marketing that I love and that I'm so passionate about. And I was like, I just want to have an outlet to share and to help people and to bring value into all of these things. If you're starting in this world in marketing or in creative, if you have lots of questions, if you are just interested, I was like, I want to be able to bring value. At the beginning of this year, I started posting more content on my personal Instagram page where I was showing behind the scenes of different things that I do in my day to day. So I did like a behind the scenes of like a day in the life, and then I did like a behind the scenes of like all the creative deliverables that we worked on, creative team meetings that we have. And I started to receive lots of messages of people asking questions about this stuff. So it really was my confirmation. Like, I already had wanted to start this podcast, but once I started putting that content out there and seeing that so many people had questions and really were into it, I was like, okay, this is my sign, my confirmation that I need to just talk about these things and share. So it's really the heart behind literally everything, which is just what this singular episode is about. Okay, so season 1, episode 1, tea time. Are you guys ready for tea time? It's literally not that big of a deal this time around. I'm just gonna go, since I was talking about my very first wedding and my very first gigs and all of that, I was like, why not share how much I charged at the beginning versus how much I'm charging now? Because that is some behind the scenes kind of interesting type of information, and it's not even private information. I mean, if you reach out to me and ask me how much I charge, I will tell you. So I'm like, might as well just kind of share. If you are never going to reach out to me and you don't need photos from me, you don't know how much I charge, so why not give a little bit of insights? So my very first family session that I got paid for, they paid me $75 for it. I didn't even actually know I charged $75 for it. I remember going from $75 to $150 like maybe a year later and feeling like, oh my God, I made it past the $100 mark. I did a couple of shoots for free, like I said, and then I got to 75, and I felt like that was so cool that in an hour I could make $75. And then our very first wedding that we got paid for was $600 doing photo and video. And I have both fond and traumatic memories from that whole experience because of how much we didn't know what we were doing. But nowadays I charge $750 for a 30-minute session, $1,000 for a 1-hour session, and $1,500 for a 2-hour session on my lifestyle and portrait brand. And then in the weddings world, we charge $7,000 for photo only wedding coverage, $7,000 for video only wedding coverage, and $12,000 for photo and video wedding coverage. So I was definitely a big leap through the 9 years, from $600 to $12,000, from 75 to 750 for 30 minutes. We've really been able to grow and develop and expand our business. I do plan to have more episodes that talk about pricing and all of those things if you are currently starting in creative and don't really know how much to charge. So we are going to deep dive into it, and I will have fun guests that are going to share with us how much they charge and the things, how they got to that point, and what's the most that they've ever gotten paid on a singular gig and different things like that. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming. If you care about any of this stuff, if you care about creative, if you care about marketing, if you care about shoots and gigs and content, there is so much in store. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm gonna close my dishwasher. If you heard that, I'm literally in my home. By the way, if you're watching this and you're listening only, you're not like viewing, but if you're viewing this, you literally see that I moved my couch around in my home and just put my whole setup by my like curtains on my balcony, because like I said, done is better than perfect. Like, let's just film at home, let's just be comfy, and let's not overthink it. Anyways, that was a segue. What I was actually going to do was close. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into this first episode and hearing a little bit of my story. I hope that you got to know me a little bit more and how I got started. And I want to get to know you. So please follow me on Instagram at Blur and Grain Podcast. Actually, let me pull up my phone. Is that the username that I saved? Yes, Blur and Grain podcast. Follow me on Instagram. Leave me comments. I want to be hearing from everybody what they want to see, what they want to know more of. I do want to have a Q&A at the end of this season. And I'm so excited because in the next episode, we have our very first special guest. And it's going to be a great, great time. So follow me at Blur and Grain podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And then follow my personal as well, Sarah Asensio, with just one A in between my first name and last name, on Instagram and TikTok as well. And I'm so excited for the other episodes. I leave you with this encouragement, which was actually the recurring theme of this whole episode. Just get started. If you are listening and you feel like you have had a dream or even small desire in your heart, absolutely nothing should stop you from pursuing it and from just going after it. Take it from me. Take me as an example to follow, that I literally just decided one day to buy these microphones, move around my couch, turn on a light and press record and get started, because this is something that I wanted to do and did not want to put off. So if there's something that's been in your heart, in, like I just said, even a small desire, I would say go for it. And you never know what's on the other side if you continue to stop yourself. So we're going to embark on this particular journey together, and we're going to see what's on the other side of this. But I want to see what's on the other side for you, for the things that you want to do. So reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you so much for tuning in. And like I said at the beginning, I don't have an intro and I don't have an outro either. So all I'm going to say is thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week on the next episode.